welcome to Of the Publishing Persuasion. I am Angela Montoya, author of Sinner's Isle, and I am here with Melanie Schubert. She is the angel of my life. She not only wears her heart on her sleeve, but a hand on her chest. Melanie, she is the stars in the sky, the sun. Now she's my competition because we are back with revision races. So we'll have to discuss that.
Yeah.
Because now we're back. Oh, you know what? Actually, Melanie Schubert, you're a cheater. And let me tell you why.
Oh, the goal!
Let me explain. And I've been festering over this. So we said we were going to start our revisions on Monday. But you live in Australia.
So I'm cheating because I'm in a different time zone? That's
Yes.
not my fault.
You should have waited until it was my Monday.
Now, before you get on your high horse and have a little whinge, I might remind you that actually, before I went to sleep, I was half asleep and I was like, no, I better message Angela so she has time to catch up while I'm sleeping. Because yes, I did take advantage of my Monday and I did get 2 chapters revised.
Wow.
And then I messaged you and I put up
after
you had all those hours when I was sleeping. If you have not got up to date, it's not my fault at this point.
Oh. Okay, I see. We're playing dirty. Here we go. I see how it works over in Australia. Now I know why I don't know why I don't know.
Long rant because you haven't started revising.
I started today.
Woo!
I'm feeling a little less cocky today. I'm a little more worried, but you know what? The competitive side will come out. Actually, I was talking with Lissa Smith about this.
Yeah.
Because she's revising or working on her second book as well. So she's going to join in on the revisions race. And I'm sure a bunch of our other friends who are working on books can as well. And so we have to come up with our end, like what the goal is.
Yeah.
Because right now I just want to get through revisions, but I think maybe like cutting it off at the end of September, or do you think you'll be way done by then?
I wanted to be, but realistically it's the end of August. So yeah, it's probably going to be more like the end of September. Okay. I have to feel it out. These early chapters, I probably feel more confident than I should because I've already read over them a couple times and revised these. So it wasn't hard, but I know what's waiting for me at the end is going to, and like pretty much coming soon. There's a lot of shit coming that I'm going to have to like, it's like a full ground zero draft from our drafters, you know? And so once I get there 100%, it's going to take me longer. I like the idea of end of September. That feels attainable.
Okay, let's see. Whoever is like the closest to their goal, whatever that may be, at the end of September. So maybe we'll all have to write out our goals.
Yes.
And like make it public. So we're all like, okay, I need to get to 50K by the end of September. So that's your goal. So whoever gets to their goal by the end of September will win a prize.
Yeah.
Of merch, or in our cases, bragging rights.
Bragging rights. Maybe the winner out of us can send a random snail mail thing.
Something. I love that.
Yeah. Completely random. Okay, I like that too.
I like it. I can't wait to get my goodie.
Oh, this one. Okay. I see how it is.
It's back. I'm back. I'm ready. I was feeling a little down, but now that I have the motivation of getting something, I am in.
100%. Honestly, when you said let's do a revision race, I was also just like really feeling slow and no motivation to get back to revising. And the element of let's race again, I can't tell you, just even mentally, it's automatically just switched on a part of me that's like, all right, then. All right. Aussie Lightning is back in the house. And it set the house on fire. So apparently this works for us. So I don't know, you're stuck with me now because how are we meant to get motivated to revise?
Well, okay, so we're going to have to make it public and get Lissa on board and whoever else wants to join us. Yeah. And maybe do like a side group chat where we can just talk shit to each other and post our goals or something. So we'll have to talk that out.
I love that.
Okay, we had a giveaway for I think it was for 4,000 listens on Spotify. And the giveaway was This Vicious Grace by Emily Theed, who was a previous guest. So I have names in my hard seltzer Truly box. We are not sponsored by Truly, but I have names in here.
I love the contrast of I had my Korean ginseng tea box for the last giveaway and you got like this Truly goon sack.
It was the first thing I saw, I swear.
I love it.
Okay. All right. Okay. Here we go. I'm shaking it. We have like 35 entries and I hand wrote them and I probably should have just made it more, wrote it down on computer. But anyways.
No, I love the authenticity.
I don't think you could probably read this.
I think I can. Eva Slar. Okay, I can't read it.
Sorry, that's my handwriting. It's Eva Deslar. It's Eva. Actually, Eva's podcast, Melanie, you need to listen to it. So yeah, Ava. So her podcast, Right Where It Hurts. Oh, it is right up your alley because it's a lot about like the mental health kind of like discussions when it comes to publishing and the toll it takes. Yeah. I highly recommend that. I mean, obviously after you listen to all of ours, yes. But if you need a break from our voices, you need to listen to Right Where It Hurts. It is so good. Those two ladies, magic on your ears. So yeah, so Ava won. Yay. I'll have to work on writing because I can't even read what that says.
No, but it's a tricky one when you try read it. Like I could actually see it, but I was like, what is this word? It was like my brain wasn't processing the word. But once you said, yeah, I know who it is. So congratulations for winning our giveaway. And you know what's really cool? Just a random statistics I was looking at because, yeah, like our views for 4,000 views. But I was looking yesterday and like the first several months of the podcast, we would get about like 74 views a month or something. And I checked last month, we had like 774 views. That's like a crazy increase. And just so grateful to all our listeners for supporting us and our funny little pod. And just, I had all the feels when I saw it. I was like, that's like 1,000%. 1,000%? No.
Yeah, well, let's just go with 1,000% for sure.
It's like a fucking huge increase in listens and just wonderful to just be finding our writing network and expanding that. And yeah, thank you to everyone who's like supporting our little wee podcast and laughing with us about plants and writing and all the things. So there'll be more giveaways, many more giveaways for sure.
Yeah, it's fun. I like giving stuff away. I like receiving stuff. And so that's why I will win in our revisions race. Every time now, I just think of that GIF I sent you of whatever the hell that animal was. What is that animal?
Anteater or an aardvark.
Oh.
And it does this, it stands up. They actually do that in real life. They stand up and they go, "Boah."
They're gangsters. They're just little gangster little animals. So
gangster.
That's me.
Speaking of gangsters, our guest today, honestly, like just the chat we had, I was like, she is way more gangster than I had any idea about. You know, like she's got books. She has got books and like yeah, just so cool hearing about writing under pen names and all that jazz. So Annette, lovely Annette. Should we read her bio?
Yeah.
Do you want me to do it?
I don't whoever. You can.
We should do rock, paper, scissors for who's gonna do it. Okay.
Okay. Wait. What are Australian rules? It's just rock, paper, scissors, right? Same?
Yeah.
Okay.
Unless you want to do rock, paper, scissors, lizard, Spock from Big Bang Theory.
No, we'll keep it simple. All right, ready.
Rock, paper, scissors. Oh, cheetah! Cheetah, paper, eats rock.
Okay. All right. One more time. Rock, paper, scissors.
Is that paper? Chip,
Yeah.
chip.
Okay, so I read it, right?
Yeah, because you lost.
Okay.
Yeah.
Shouldn't the winner read this amazing bio?
Oh,
you know what? It's okay. I will read it because I really enjoyed having Annette on the show. So
is that a stab at me?
All right. So you guys do not want to miss this interview. She is absolutely wonderful. So let's read her bio. Annette Chavez Macias writes stories about love, family, and following your dreams. She is proud of her Mexican American heritage, culture, and traditions, all of which can be found within the pages of her books. For those readers wanting even more love stories and guaranteed happily ever afters, Annette also writes romance under the pen name Sabrina Sol. A Southern California native, Annette lives just outside Los Angeles with her husband, 3 children, and 4 dogs.
Oh, she's near you as well. Well, ish.
Yeah, like she's about 8 hours away, but we're still in the same state.
Yeah. It's like America's so big, as I just see California and I'm like, they're close. But no, you're right. It's like far.
Yeah, we're close. But honestly, we're also used to like going places that it's like a drive down to LA isn't that big of a deal.
Gotcha.
How long does it take to get to the other side of Australia?
Yeah, Australia's big.
Yeah.
So like now I'm guessing, but it used to take me like 10 hours to drive to Sydney, which is close, which looks close on a map. Perth is like, okay, now I need to Google because I'm going to misquote Perth. Perth to Melbourne. Time? Driving? This was a mistake, wasn't it? 36 hours to Perth.
Oh, wow. Okay. So yeah, you guys are pretty big over there. I figured.
They're girthy.
You're girthy. She's thick. Oh, real fast, because I see we're running out of our time, but I let my daughter borrow Anything But Fine by our previous guest, Tobias Madden. She gobbled this book up. She is obsessed. And so it just made me so happy. I sent to the DM and I was like, my daughter loves your book. So you guys need to read it. It's so sweet. It's so good. Anything But Fine.
That literally just makes me so happy right now. He's got a second book coming out. Take a Bow, Noah Mitchell.
I'm gonna have to get it. I'm gonna
try hit the launch up in September sometime. So maybe we might have to have him on again to cheer about that.
Yeah.
I adore that book. I'm so stoked she loved it. Give a little taste of Australia. Ballarat, where the book is set, is about an hour drive from me. It's out into
okay. Well, very cool.
Yeah. So drivable distance. I think that's where he's having the launch. So yay, Tobias.
Yay. Well, let's bring on Annette and talk about her amazing book, Big Chicas Don't Cry.
Yeah, here she is. It's so lovely to meet you and have you on the show.
Oh, well, thank you for the invitation. And yes, it's great meeting you guys as well.
Yeah. I've been so excited for your book. I've been seeing it like pop up into my feed, and just the cover. Yeah. I mean, and the title, everything, it looks absolutely wonderful. So I can't wait just to talk about it and hear about you and your process. Let's get right into it, because I know I took up time fiddling with my
technology. Can you tell us a little bit about your writing journey? Have you always wanted to be a writer?
I have since I was little. I think I kind of decided when I actually have this like memory. I was in the 6th grade and we had to do come up with stories using like that week's spelling words. And I just loved just the idea of like the challenge of coming up with just coming up with stories, but just, having to use those words as prompts. And I had always been a big reader, thanks to my mom. My mom was always reading and taking us to the library, taking us to the used bookstores. So I think just that, those combinations, I think is what made me decide I wanted to be a writer. But I didn't really know what kind of writer I wanted to be, because I read so many different things. And then my writing journey kind of took a detour a little bit when I went to college. Again, I knew I wanted to do something with writing, but I wasn't sure what. And so I was like, I'll try script writing. I did not like script writing at all. And then for my major, so I decided to major in communications. It was a requirement that you had to work on the student newspaper. It was a class. And so then I kind of got into journalism, and I was actually a reporter and an editor for a couple of years, right out of school.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it was fun, but it's a good job to have when you're young because there's no like set schedule, and you have to be ready to come into work whenever or go if there's breaking news. So once I got married and had my family, I was like, I can't do this. I can't do this with little kids at home. So I went into like corporate writing and PR writing, marketing, which is, I still do that. That's my full-time day job. But it wasn't until, maybe before I turned 40, I started thinking, hey, I remember I wanted to write books. Let me try doing that for real. And that's how it started.
Wow. I love that, like, it took until you were getting into your 40s or over 40s, to like find like, hey, let's do something. Let's do this.
Yeah.
We so often see these young, beautiful, like writers that are doing their things they've known, but for many of us, we get there later. And for me, it didn't start till I was probably in my mid-30s. I'm trying to think how old I am right now. But, it's like I had to count back. But it took me a while to figure out what I wanted to do and how I wanted to get there. And I love that you always knew writing was the thing, but now it took you living life to get to this spot. And I think that's great.
Right. And I think, maybe that was the way it's supposed to be. Like you said, like you need to live a little bit and, have those experiences behind you before, you decide this is the kind of writer I want to be. I definitely could not have written this book when I was in my 20s because, I hadn't experienced anything yet. So I think it was, that was just the journey the path I was meant to be on.
Yeah. Well, can you tell us a little bit about your book? I am also obsessed with the cover. I found myself staring at it yesterday for like a couple of minutes. It's beautiful. The colors, just the positioning. Tell us a little bit about Big Chicas Don't Cry.
Sure. So this is the book that when I decided when I was going to turn 40 and I was going to try and write, this was the book. So it's been that long in the process. It started as, you have the scene in your head and you can't get away from it. So I just kept thinking about this one scene, and literally in the middle of the night, I got up, I opened my laptop. I just need to get it out of my head. I just needed to do something with it. I didn't know what it was going to be. I just needed to get out of my head. So after that, I would come back to it and add a little bit. And I kind of worked on it here and there for a couple of years, still not really knowing what kind of story I wanted to tell, because different things would change, the plot would change. But at the heart of it, the main story about four cousins was from the beginning. I knew, and it was going to be about four cousins. And it's because I come from a big Mexican American family. I have lots of cousins, and I'm the oldest on both sides of my family. So I have some cousins that are really close in age, and then I have cousins who are, you know, barely going to turn like 26, I think is the youngest maybe. So there's a wide gap, but as cousins, we're very close. And I think we've actually gotten closer as we're older. So I knew that was eventually, that's how the story was turning into. And so again, I would work on the story for a little bit. I'd go and do other things. I actually ended up publishing romance and kind of put this story away. And I found out about a contest, and I want to say it was maybe like 5 years ago, and that was just really what the push I needed to finish it. And so I finished the story just so I could enter into the contest. And I didn't make it in, I didn't final or anything, but I got such great feedback from the judges that I was like, okay, I have something here. I want to really try and publish it. But it just took, I think I've counted, I keep going back and counting because I keep forgetting. Oh yeah, I did send it to her. So I have probably maybe 14 rejections saved on my computer from both editors and agents. Because even though I was published in romance and I didn't have an agent for my romance, I knew this book, the publishers that I wanted to send it to, I knew I needed an agent. So I decided I'm just going to focus now on agents. I'm not going to worry about editors. And what year? I guess 2020. I think it was 2020. I saw that DV Pit on Twitter was going to happen again. And I had tried before and I never got any interest. So I wasn't even going to participate until the morning of. And I said, you know what? Let me just try it one more time. And I got all these interests. I got so much interest in that tweet, in that pitch. And I narrowed it down to 5 agents. And I sent it to them. And one agent right away responded within a couple of days that she wanted the full manuscript. And then another agent responded, she wanted the full manuscript. And it was just kind of waiting. And then I ended up getting offers from both agents. So I went with Sarah Younger. And I really wanted to go with her because I knew a lot of her clients. A lot of her clients are really good friends with, I'm really good friends with them. And so I had always heard about all the amazing things that she was doing for them. And she was just really, she was really a great cheerleader and also, a fighter. She would fight for them. And so, and it was just, I remember that I got the offer from the first agent first. So I had to let Sarah know, I got an offer. And she's like, just give me till the weekend. I'm almost finished with the book. Just give me to the weekend and I promise. And so, yeah, she ended up offering. And then once we went on submission, I got 3 offers for submission. Wow. And I ended up going with Montlake, which is out of Amazon, because when I had the meeting with the editor, her name's Maria Gomez, she was she just kept telling me how much she related to the characters,
Mm.
and how much it reminded her of her own family. And that really meant something to me. And also out of all the offers that I got, she was the only one who didn't really want to change the story too much. The other editors were like, 4 main characters is too much. You need to pick one. And I'm like, I can't pick one. You know, they're all important to the story. I can't just pick one. Another editor, okay, pick 2. I'm like, no. So she was the one who was like, I just have a little bit of changes, but basically I love your story. I don't want to do anything too much to it to change it. And so that's how I ended up going with Maria. So it's been a long journey
Yeah.
with this book, very, very long. So,
but I love that. Like I really latched on to the fact that you had this idea, and you know things weren't exactly what perfect, or you just kind of let it sit and brew while you went and did other things. And so it was like the magic was always there, and it was, you know, it was building, and like, you know, like I'm thinking like dough, right? Like it's just puffing up and just getting ready, but you gave it space. And I really, really love that, because I feel like we're always rushing and like doing, you know, trying to get things and always just like feeling this pressure, but you gave it room to breathe. And I really love that. And now look at you, you have this gorgeous book and people were fighting for it. So
yeah,
did it right.
totally. And the other thing I wanted to come back to that you said was, you know, it's such an important reminder, and I always like to come back to this on our interviews, that those early no's can be discouraging, but no in this industry is so subjective. It is not always a reflection, and not usually a reflection of the work, because those early no's you had, and then after, when you did DV Pit, had all this interest. Like if you stopped at that point when you got the initial no's and were like, oh, maybe there's nothing there, but no, like you just kept going. And I think that's so powerful in and of itself.
Yeah. And I think thinking back, there were, you know, times where I was like, maybe this is just something that's for me. Nobody else is ever going to read it. And so I was like trying to be okay with that. And really it was like, I'm going to try this one more time. And if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. So, yeah.
I just find it so special and powerful that you do have these 4 cousins, these primas. Like it feels so much, and I just keep seeing this lately, that there is just not enough Latinx, you know, representation. It's just not there. And I follow a lady on TikTok. She's like a producer, and she's this beautiful Latina, and she was just always saying like they just, for some reason, we're not translating to the mainstream. And so to see your book and the title, and you, like you're doing it, and it's beautiful, and we need it. So, you know, it just makes me so encouraged, especially with all the kind of BS happening with Barnes and Noble, and you know, just all the stuff. To see, you know, your book there every time. I kid you not, like it's been on my feed.
Same.
And you know, I guess the Instagram gods know what I'm looking for, but it's so valuable to have that representation. And so, you know, thank you for doing it. And even in romance, on the other side of things, I want to get into that a little bit as well, because you mentioned you're a romance writer, and you write under the pen name Sabrina Sol. So can you tell us a little bit about the romance side of things, and why you chose to write under a pen name for, you know, for your different genres?
Sure. So again, back when I decided I wanted to be a published author, I had this book, but it wasn't ready, right? But at the same time, I had no clue on what I needed to do to make this happen. And fortunately, I kept in touch with a friend from college. Kept in touch, you know, Facebook friends. And she kept posting about her contracts and about, you know, the books that she had coming out. She writes romance. And so I just kind of sent her a message one day and said, hey, what do I need to do to become a writer? And again, I still didn't really know what kind of writer. I wasn't sure what kind of genre I wanted, because even though I grew up reading romance, as I mentioned before, my mom was a big reader. So she was one of those, you know, Harlequin junkies, which she belonged to the subscription club where she would get books, you know, every month. And she had shelves and boxes full of Harlequins. And there's another publisher, I don't remember the name. So I grew up because I would go and I would take her books and I would, you know, read them, you know, when she wasn't looking. So I think I already, you know, had that love for romance books, but I never really thought I'm going to be a romance author. Like I said, I just wanted to be an author. I wanted to be a writer. I didn't know what I wanted to write. So she right away, she answered me. And one of the things that she mentioned was the Romance Writers of America. And there was actually a local chapter that she belonged to. And so she invited me. So why don't you come to the meeting, just see, you know, what you think. Because I had told her, I don't know what I want to write. I don't have a story ready. So I went to the meeting and I was amazed that there were all these people who were like me, who were just big readers. And then they just had all these stories in their head, and they knew how to put them, you know, what the craft was. And I don't remember who that first speaker was for that first meeting, but whoever that speaker was, like, I was like, yes, this is what I want to do. I'm going to write romance. So my friend, she was with a publisher, Decadent Publishing, and they had this series where the world was already built for you. They just wanted a story to go in this world, and it was like for novellas. So, you know, like less than 10,000 words. So she told me, she goes, why don't you try writing for them? Because it's short, you know, everything's already there. You just have to come up with a story. And I was like, sure, I'll try it. And I ended up getting accepted for my story. And that's when they asked me, so what name are you going to publish under? And I was like, oh, I hadn't even thought about that. And so I talked it over with my friend, who also used a pen name. And she used a pen name because she was the college professor. So she wanted to make sure that, you know, those two lives of her, you know, they were separate. And I ended up deciding to use a pen name for a couple of different reasons. One, I kind of wanted to just build this persona of this romance author. And so it was like, you know, it's like, where else can you like reinvent yourself, you know, with a new name, and just, you know, you can be somebody different than who you are in your normal everyday life. Yeah. So that was one reason why I decided to use a pen name. And also, like I mentioned, I was in like corporate writing, and I just decided, not because I was embarrassed about what I was writing, but for me, it was just part of my private life. And I just didn't feel like I needed to share it with them. So that's how I decided to use a pen name for romance. That was my first book.
Yeah. I think that's smart though. I mean, when you are in like a different, you know, say you're a teacher or you're kind of in a different space and you're writing, you know, sometimes it feels like romance in particular, especially like certain kinds of romance, you know, having that little separation is not a bad thing at all. I thought about it myself. If I did eventually write adult romance, I would totally love to have a different persona where none of my kids or their friends know me or follow me. Great.
Yeah. In that way, I guess it would be freeing as well, because once you have that different persona and that different name, you kind of like unlock a part of yourself that's like unlimited by you know, like you said, say you're a teacher or whatever, and there's just like people that you might not want to know that you're adding that racy scene.
Yeah, and it was it's so funny because, you know, here I was trying to like keep that private, but you mentioned your kids, and yeah, my kids were telling everybody, oh yeah, my mom writes books, this is her name, you can find her book.
That is the one thing I was thinking, that it would surely come out eventually.
Yeah, it did. And then I ended up actually leaving that job. I went to a different job, to one I'm at now. And there was also somebody in my department who he was a poet. He is a poet. So when we started talking, you know, he had all these books published, and so it kind of made me feel safe to share that, oh, by the way, I'm also published. And then right away he's telling everybody, and you know, everybody's buying my books. And it was very everybody was so excited and just, you know, very impressed. And so I felt more comfortable in that job, just being open with the pen name. And it's so funny because there was another lady in another department who I can't remember if she knew that I wrote books, but maybe she didn't know my name. But I actually was featured in an article. And I happened to be featured with my friend, who is the one who got me into romance. It was like a Valentine's Day event and a romance, you know, event. And our picture was in the newspaper. She saw it. Oh, no. She was actually a fan of my friend. She was like a reader. And so she follows her on Facebook. So my friend posted that article and that picture. So she printed it out and she circled it and she left it on my desk. And she's like, you have to tell me, you know, all about your books. And so now every time I see her at work, when's your new book coming out? You know, so that's fun now that people, you know, also know me as Sabrina as well.
That is funny. Well, now you're a celebrity, so of course they got to know the goods. They got to read the book.
Yeah. So that's been fun.
How many books have you published of romance?
So I've published 3 full-length books with Entangled Publishing, and then I published maybe like 6 or 7 either short stories, so I was in anthologies, or novellas.
You've been working.
Yeah.
You've been busy. And so Big Chicas Don't Cry is like your first, almost like your debut in a new genre, right?
Yes. So this is women's fiction. So it definitely is it's considered a debut because, you know, I haven't been published under this name. And so that was different, you know, trying to now also not so much come up with another persona, but just, you know, more social media, you know, just people getting used to this name, because luckily this book, even though it's women's fiction, it has romance in it. It has romantic elements. So all of my romance author friends have been very supportive of Big Chicas. So it's kind of intertwined, I guess you would say. The 2 names are becoming more intertwined, and I actually did end up combining some of my social media accounts. So I'm very open about, you know, I'm writing now under 2 names. And I'm doing that because I already, you know, kind of have some readers I think will cross over, but at the same time, I don't want to disappoint them by going into it thinking it's a romance book, because it's not. Because not every character is going to get a happily ever after. And, you know, so I don't want to turn off readers, you know, thinking, and that was another reason why I decided I needed to do 2 different names for this book, or do a different name for this book and not do it under Sabrina, because I wanted to make sure that readers were aware of what they were going to get. within in that book. Yeah.
So it almost seems more like a separation of like genre, like this is how this feel of these books are, and this one, because I know like historically it was something like women would write under men's names and that kind of thing so that they could get published. But it almost seems like that's completely shifted. It's not so much the need for anonymity. I can't even say it. How do you say it? Somebody help me.
No, you're good.
we understood what you're saying.
Yeah, we got it.
We got it.
It's more just like the different hats we wear as writers.
Yes.
Actually, yeah. That's so cool. So tell us a little bit about like your writing style. Like what's your kind of, your plotter, pantser, something in between?
I think right now I'm maybe something in between. I started off definitely as a pantser. But that's because, you know, in the beginning I was writing, like I said, I was writing novellas, short stories. So it's easier to be a pantser when, you know, you're only writing, you know, 8,000 words, you know, 20,000 words. And then when I started to work on my full length novels, I've realized that that process was not going to work for me. I needed to outline. I actually, one of the speakers at that chapter, oh my gosh, and now I can't remember her name, but she's the one who does the Save the Cat outline for writers. So she took the script writing concept and applied it to
now that you said it, like I use that all the time, and I'm also like, what's her name?
Yeah,
It suddenly left my mind as well.
It just went out of my head. I had it, and but so she came to talk at the chapter, and I'm like, oh my God, this is exactly what I needed, you know, because the beats are all there, and that helped me plot out my first full length romance novel. And then now, as I've gone along, with one of the books that I just finished, I actually started using Post-its. And I had seen people do that before, you know, they would post, you know, all their chapters, or I don't even know how they organized it. But I was really struggling with this story because I knew the beginning, I knew the middle, I knew the end. I just didn't know how to connect all of them. And so by plotting out each chapter, but just on a Post-it, it helped me keep track. So I could see the holes, things that I was missing. And also because I'm the type of person who just likes to cross things off, you know, I'll do something and I'll write it down and then I'll cross it off, you know, just to show that I did something. So it was very rewarding to go through and make a big old X on a Post-it note, knowing I had finished that scene or I had finished that chapter. And then when I was all done, I had this big board of Post-it notes with X's on them. And it was just so satisfying. So I'm like, oh my God, it was hard to do, but you know, and I think what it comes down to is there's no right or wrong way, you know, to write. And if you write one way in the beginning or for one book, doesn't mean you have to write that, use that same process for the next book. It's just whatever's going to help you write the book. Especially when you're on deadline. So, you know, I'll try whatever now. So
I love that. Like, you know, I feel like we get stuck in, oh, this is what has worked for me in the past, so I have to do that. But it's not true. Whatever the hell works. I really like that. So what has been the hardest part of the writing journey for you?
I would say juggling different projects at the same time. Before I signed with my agent, there was like, you know, a year, 2 years where I wasn't really writing for different reasons. And so I didn't really have anything going out. I think maybe I did a short story for an anthology, but for the most part, I wasn't writing. And then once I got my agent, and then she, you know, she had the book, and then she made her suggestions. So that, I think that kind of like got me into the groove. And then, you know, once you get a contract, you're like, okay, when am I going to get my next one? So last year was all about, getting contracts, and I was so happy. I was so excited. But now all those contracts or those deadlines are hitting now. So that's been a challenge. That's been a challenge to just be on a constant deadline, which I haven't had in such a long time. So I would finish one book and it would be time to write the next book, or another book would come back from copy edits. So I'd have to work on the copy edits. And for example, right now, writing a book, and I have copy edits for my next women's fiction. And then I'm also trying to do promo to get ready for Big Chicas. So I'm a little tired.
Yeah. Yeah. As you should be. Well, and I think that also, like when you mentioned promo, it feels like authors have this extra burden of like being out here and making sure the book sells, even though, technically that's not really supposed to be part of the job necessarily, but
right.
Feels like we have this pressure of, okay, I have to sell myself and this book so that I can keep writing. And so I could see where balancing on top of living life and working and being on deadline, balancing seems like an almost impossible task,
Yeah.
It's just hard.
Yeah. And when you're not writing, or when you don't have contracts, you wish you were writing and you wish you were contracts, but so it's like you can't win. You can't win, right? So this is a good thing. I definitely feel these are blessings. So I don't want to take them for granted, because who knows, in a year from now I'm not going to be working on anything. So as long as I have something to write, then that's what I'm going to focus on. So
I love that.
But also you're allowed to feel tired from your blessings. I feel like a lot of times there's almost this like apologetic, like, I know how blessed I am, so I'm gonna just, like, persevere. But you're allowed to be exhausted too. Like, it's a lot to carry, and self-care all the way. But yeah, I see our time is ticking down. So before we run out of time, I want to ask you, what is something you wish your younger self knew, or like that you would tell your younger self before starting out on this journey?
I think I would tell myself, like, even though, I had mentioned that maybe I needed, those life experiences before I could be an author, I do wish I would have started earlier. I wish I would have not so much, gotten a contract or gotten published, but just immersed myself in the writing community, because I didn't know anybody who was a writer, who in my 30s and my 20s. And now that I've discovered, this community, I'm like, gosh, I wish I had this when I was in my 20s, because even if I wasn't published, it's just learning from other people and being inspired from other people. I just really wish I would have had that when I was younger.
Yes, that's so true. And it's something that, like, if people are afraid to put themselves out there, like, it can be so daunting. But even like you said before, when you went to that convention and you had that experience of like, wow, here they are, these people like me with all these ideas cooking away, all these beautiful overthinking minds. And it's like, it's so wonderful when you like, yeah, I know I feel so seen when I found those people as well. And yeah, I agree with you. Like, highly recommend people take the plunge. And like, it's scary, right? Because a lot of us are introverts, and like, it doesn't come naturally. It doesn't feel natural. But when you push through, it does feel comfortable, because they're also like-minded. That's what I found, like with the right ones.
Yeah. And it's just, there is something, very validating about, being around people who think like you, and who, and then even just, having somebody to talk to, whether about, it's like the latest, scandal or, controversy, because, my husband, he's my biggest supporter, but when I start talking to him, It's like, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't understand. So then I have to start texting, all my friends, and okay, yes, they're all excited, or they're all up in arms about the same thing, and so there's just something so validating about having those type of connections.
That's it right there. It's the truth. Husbands, they love us, they try, but they just don't get it.
They don't. They don't.
Well, we just loved having time with you to talk about your book and your journey. Can you tell our listeners where they can find you?
Sure. So I am on Instagram as @author Annette, and also as @Sabrina _ the romance chica. I'm on Twitter, just one Twitter account, @the romance chica. And I'm also on TikTok, also one account @the romance chica. So I decided to keep my Instagrams separate, just because, it's just a little bit different. It's more reader, it's more of a reader audience. And so readers are looking for specific books, so some people will cross over, some people follow me on both pages, some people follow me on either or. So I just figured I'd keep them separate there. Correct. So.
Well, it's going to cut us off any second. So before